Hey y'all, it's Melissa Watson Ward with Shattering Ceilings. So excited to have y'all here with us today as we talk to my fearless leader, Crystal Spade. Crystal is chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, is the first Black woman to hold this position, and has just been knocking it out the park, representing us Democrats in South Carolina very well. So excited to have her here. She is a friend of the arena. She has been on before, and we're going to talk about November and women in politics. Crystal, welcome.
Hey, Melissa, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to hear from you today, particularly as we really start looking forward. We've obviously made it through the primaries, and now we're looking forward. But before we get into the deep questions, I have some not so serious questions.
Okay.
My first question I'm asking everybody on the podcast is, who are your people, or who do you find community with? And this can be lighthearted or it can be deep. So my answer to this is serial plant killers. I love plants. I did the whole post, in the pandemic, I felt like every Black woman was getting plants. And so I jumped on the bandwagon and I had like a house full of plants and I just could not keep them alive. I see, look, yours is looking good. So I have downsized as many plants as I have, but I'm still not, I don't have a green thumb. So I say it to say, who are your people?
Oh, who are my people? I just got into plants and gardening.
Ooh,
So I follow a lot of people who garden. Like I planted a flower garden, I planted some vegetables. So I'm following a garden community, men and women. Um, and I think my community, I don't know my people. My people are my people who are, I think, are people who I feel like a kindredness to, like just everyday run of the mill people. I
yeah.
think that's who I end up finding community with people who are easy breezy. Like that's just kind of who I vibe with.
Yeah. I love that easy breezy, no drama people.
Yes.
Yes,
No.
yes. And if you look in my backyard, there may be a greenhouse there that has now fallen apart because I neglected the outside gardening. Yes, I did grow some jalapeno peppers. I did do that, but but that was the extent of my outside gardening.
I've got peppers in my garden. I just harvested a few. I mean, it's just not a lot. I actually put it on a sandwich yesterday. I got
Oh,
watermelons, honeydew. I've got turnip, no, collard greens, but the bugs have taken them. It looks like I'm growing lace out the ground. Okay, that's what it
oh.
looks like, lace.
Hmm.
But I got some peppers and some stuff growing,
Well, let
and
me
two,
find
two
out. I need to go to Crystal House.
a tomato.
Get me a tomato or a watermelon. Oh, okay. Okay, cool, Crystal. Well, it's good to know a little bit more about you and what you do in your free time because as Madam Chair, I'm sure it is a hard job, particularly um now that we are projected to have so few Democrat or women period in office. So can you tell us a little bit from your perspective, why is it essential to have Democratic women serve in office? And I say this because, as somebody who works for Emerge, I've had people come up to me and they're like, well, why focus on women? Why not men? What does it really matter, to have women versus men? Why do we need more women? So what would your answer to that be as to why we need women and why do we specifically need Democratic women in office?
I mean, I think it's obvious. Look at the state of things. Look at the state of the country on a national scale. There's an attack on women. And when you have more women in office and more Democratic women in office, like the sister senators, like we have the perfect example here in South Carolina. The women in the Senate that came together to try to stop the abortion ban. Because women are going to or should be fighting for the
Mm-hmm.
rights of women and children. Like you would think that women um, are more, what's the word? I don't want to say more vulnerable, but I just feel like we're more aware um,
Mm-hmm.
that leadership in elected office is absolutely necessary in order for the table to be set in a fair and equitable way. It has to be Democratic women at that table, or
Mm-hmm.
people are going to get left behind.
So, a question I was asking myself, and I've asked out loud, is this really the state in the country that Republican voters want? Or we had such low turnout in the primary. Do you think the average Republican isn't listening to what's being said and they're just voting like these people were able to get their base out, but that's not really because you're talking about less than 25% of people showed up in the primaries to vote. In some areas like Richland County, it was like 6%. And
Mm-hmm.
so is it that this is the state and the country that Republican voters want, or is it just that those people were really good at getting their own base out, and that's not really the feelings of the majority?
I don't know. I mean, turnout plays a big deal, like you just explained. You know, but why aren't our voters turning out? Like that's the question. Are they just so disheartened by what is happening? That we keep losing rights, things keep getting rolled back. That's a great question. I can't get into the mind of a Republican. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
they want. I know they're voting for it. So if they don't want it, that will be shocking. But I know that, a lot of Republicans don't want this abortion ban if we're speaking
Mm-hmm.
specifically to issues. But that's a great question. But turnout definitely plays a major role um, in the state of things on our side.
Yeah. And if y'all don't want the abortion ban, then don't vote for candidates that are going to ban abortion. like we know that abortion bans are not popular,
Uh-huh.
yet people are voting for candidates that are going to just do just that. And do realize that it's going to go beyond just abortion. The Project 25 that the Republicans are trying to push is scary. And so we need to turn up in November to
Hmm.
slow down this Republican machine.
Hmm.
And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the women that we're gonna watch that we need to watch for November. Like, what are the women races to watch that we should be volunteering and donating to and supporting on the ballot in South Carolina this November?
I think there are lots of women specifically, and I keep talking. I wish I had all the names laid out in front of me. But the women down in Beaufort County, they're
Mm.
running for the state house. They have, like I said, I said before, not on this actual show, but the ballot down in Beaufort County is 99% women, and women who didn't have any electoral experience, but they were just catapulted into action because of the abortion ban, because of book bans, all the things that were happening in their community, and they know they were happening as a result of who was representing them at the state house, on the county council level, at the state senate. So they decided to run for office. But I can probably give you a list if you guys get the post stuff of those women. But that's the first; those are the first women that come to office. That come to mind when I think about running for office this cycle. You've got women running in the Senate over in Florence, Florence County. Belinda Timmons is running in the Senate. You've got women in the upstate running, Octavia Alamici. You've got Angela Jeter. You've got several women running all over this state, and I can give you a whole list of them. I'm trying to make sure I'm not leaving out a more high profile race. You've got Audrey Williams down in Hampton County, Hampton and Jasper. That's a seat that Democrats can absolutely win back.
Mm-hmm.
She needs support. She needs, all the support that she can get, volunteers. She needs money. She needs all the things, but that's definitely a seat that we can win. And we definitely need a lot of support to help get her over the finish line. So those are just some of
Mm-hmm.
the races that come to mind.
Yeah, and you mentioned, donating, and I mentioned donating, and I'm going to always talk about donating to women candidates. Y'all, the reality is women can raise money, and we can raise just as much as our male colleagues. Women of color can raise money. Where
Mhm.
the issue comes in is, as a woman, a black woman myself, I don't have the network to call someone and they can max out to my campaign. So,
Mhm.
meaning that I'm going to have to work twice as hard to raise the same amount of money as if I was running as a male opponent. So what that means is we need to make that a little bit easier for the women because and y'all, talking about money, it's not that I want more money in politics. But for many of these women, they are not the incumbent. And so to get your name out there costs money. The mailers cost money. The material that you door knock with costs money. Phone banking and text banking costs money. And so for these women to really be able to get their name out there to voters is going to take money. And so make things a little bit easier for them and donate to their campaigns. Again, because they're having to work twice as hard as their male colleagues and twice as hard as the male incumbent to be able to raise that money. But we know they can do it, because these are all good candidates that you're mentioning, Crystal. Like, these are all strong candidates, and I tell people, don't vote for women just because they're women. Vote for them because they're good candidates, and these women are good candidates who could make really good elected officials.
Will make excellent elected officials. And I'm glad you brought up the money piece and just the dynamics between raising money as a woman and raising woman money as a man, which I already knew it before I came into this office. But it's very, when I'm having conversations, because one of my big jobs in this role is to raise money,
Mm-hmm.
right? To raise money so that we can have lights, raise money so that I can connect to the internet. Like everything
Mm-hmm.
is, um, every dollar we spend over here is money that we've raised. And of course, it has been difficult, which I knew it would be. But some of the conversations that I've had with donors who I know, who I've watched give my previous male counterparts money, and their conversation with me is 100% different. It
Mm-hmm.
is, oh, well, let me bring your books over. Let me look at your books. Like, you want me to open my books to you? So you can, give me money that I watched you give the previous chair just because
Mm-hmm.
he asked for them, but I need to now, bend the knee and show you that I can add and
Mm-hmm.
subtract before you give me any money. So you're also dealing with that. Like, you're dealing with the network not being the same as far as being able to, give you $3,000 or $4,000 just because you asked, and also
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with, dare I say it, the misogyny of things, right? And so when
Mm-hmm.
you add race on that, it's a double whammy. So
Mm-hmm.
if we want to have representation in these offices, we have to realize that we've got to support them in acknowledging and what that support looks like. It's showing up
Mm-hmm.
to make phone calls. It's showing up the door knock, like on a Saturday. And if somebody calls you and say, "Can you please knock 40 doors for me on Saturday?" What? No. Yes, I can. If your schedule is free, do it. Can you please give me $25 a month? What? Yes, you can. It costs. If we're going to ever level the playing field for women, we got to show up for women, you know, double what we show up for men. We just have to.
And we got to stop talking about viability, y'all. Viability
Yeah.
is not innate. It's not like you're born as a viable candidate. And the reality is, I only ever hear about viability when it comes to either candidates of color or women. I never hear about it with white men. It's like, oh, we believe they're automatically viable, but a woman has to prove that she's viable. And the way that she proves that she's viable is raising money. Well, if you won't give money to her until she's viable, then how would she ever be viable, quote unquote? So, we have got to stop with the viable. Any candidate is viable if we put our support behind them.
100%.
Yeah. Um, so we know that there's a number of women on the ballot. There are a number of women on the Senate side, a number of women on the House side. So y'all, we do have the opportunity to flip some seats. But what I find also alarming, Crystal, is the number of incumbent women that are being replaced by men. And again, some of these men are great men. No dig to them at all. So I want to make that clear. Like, some of these men are great men that I think will be championed for women's rights. But collectively, we are losing incumbent women being replaced by men. Like, what is happening here, and why is it that we're projected to, we're only, y'all, we were only like 16%, less than 60% of the General Assembly as it is. So we're going to be less than that unless we're able to flip some seats. We will be less than 16% represented in the General Assembly. What's going on here?
Yeah. And what comes to mind immediately when you say that, I think about what happened on the Republican side down in Charleston, which we do have a candidate in that race, Rita Atkins, but Senator Sandy Sin lost her seat
Mm-hmm.
to a male, an extreme Republican, someone who should not even be qualified to run for office. But because of her votes on abortion, she lost that seat, and so now that seat is up for grabs, but it is a Republican leaning seat, so she'll be replaced by a man if we're not able to really invest and give Rita Atkins, the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic candidate down there, the support that she needs to get her over the finish line in November. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it happens with Sandy Sin, and then Katrina Shealy over
Mm-hmm.
in Lexington. Senator Shealy lost. She's been what, a 15-year incumbent. Also, another good vote on abortion, a good vote on women's rights. She lost her seat to, lost her primary to a man because of
Hmm.
that abortion vote. Yeah, so it's happening. And those are the ones that come to mind immediately
Yeah.
when I think about being replaced by men.
Which is kind of scary that if incumbents, like a 15-year incumbent, who has gotten things done. I mean, Katrina Shealy has been effective, regardless, like, if you agree with her everything politically, she's been an effective leader. 15-year incumbent, if a 15-year incumbent can't keep their job, what are we doing? It's just it I feel like things are going to get a little bit scarier before we're able to like breathe better. And y'all, like, as we are decreasing the number of women, that means women's issues are going to not be at the forefront, and that means that when these men are voting for issues that impact women, and let me spoiler alert, everything impacts women, from manufacturing to infrastructure, it all impacts us, but they're not going to vote with us in mind.
Yeah, they're
So
not going
it's
to families in mind, none of that.
no, it's going to be very scary, and it's going to be a lot harder to get the things that we need to get past.
Mhm.
So, Crystal, so be transparent. Crystal was on the organizing committee for Emerge South Carolina. So, she helped to bring Emerge to South Carolina, and I was the first executive director of Emerge South Carolina. And so we are working to get more women on the ballot, and it is definitely hard sometimes to have a conversation with a woman and get her into a mindset where she's willing to do that, because y'all, I think people think that the Democratic Party has a spoil of riches. Like, oh my God, there's just so many people running for office. And, the Democratic Party's like, oh no, you shouldn't run because we already have great candidates. Y'all, I have worked on recruitment with the party. It is not like that. Is them trying to really talk to people. I mean, serious, like the party has to work to get candidates. It's not like they're discouraging people from running. If anything, they're out here asking people to run. And it takes work, y'all. They are out here working their behinds off trying to get people to run. But if people are telling them no, what can they do with that? So, what can we do to support you, 26 and beyond, to get more women on the ballot?
I think that helping us identify more potential candidates, right?
Okay.
I think that's always a good thing. Like if you know someone who you think will be great, if you
Mm-hmm.
maybe you will be great. You know what I'm saying? So maybe, helping identify some great people and also responding to the call instead
Mm-hmm.
of, immediately, and I understand it. I understand it. When people ask me to run for chair, I didn't just say no. I said, hell no, not doing it. It took convincing, but I did, in hindsight, still have a little bit of an open mind. So when you were being recruited and someone is, bringing it to your attention that, if you ever thought about running, like just don't totally dismiss it. Be open
Mm-hmm.
to having another conversation. It's scary to put yourself out there. It really is. It is no other way to say it. You never know what's going to happen. People are going to say cruel things about you, but we need to make sure that we're supporting people when they do run. So helping us identify other women, and also as a woman being open to answering the recruitment call when you
Mm-hmm.
when and if your name comes up.
Yeah, I tell people, people tell me, "Oh, Melissa, I'm not, running isn't for me. I will support behind the
But
scenes."
nobody,
And I'm
right?
like, "Well, who are you going to support if nobody runs?
It's
Who are you
enough
going to support?"
behind the scenes. It's enough people behind the scenes. So we need some
Right.
in front of the scenes so there will be a behind the scenes. Because right now all
Exactly.
it's
And y'all, like, no one is coming to save us. I think we think that there's this like great candidate, that's going to swoop in and they're going to save the day and they're going to save us. And, they're like a superhero and they're going to just be the perfect candidate. First off, there's no perfect candidate. Second off, there's no perfect time to run. So also saying, well, maybe I'll run later, because it'll be more perfect. There's no perfect time to run. There's no perfect candidate, which means you don't have to be perfect to run for office. We just need to put your name on a ballot because, as Crystal said, I mean, y'all, again, as I said, we don't have people just falling out of trees to run for office. I mean, it is work talking to people and convincing them to run because it does take work to run and to win. So we need y'all, either putting your name on a ballot or asking people to run. I've heard for women, it takes as many as 7 times asking them to run before they agree to run. And I've heard women of color is as many as 21 times because again, it is a big sacrifice asking people to run. So we also got to stop. I think we as Democrats too can be a little nicer to our candidates. We don't have to fall in love with them, y'all. That's not the purpose of them. We're not marrying them. I said that about Biden. Like I'm not looking for a lifelong partnership. I'm looking for a president for the next 4 years. So I don't have to love my candidate, or they don't have to be perfect for me to realize they're going to be a good fit and they will be a good advocate for me. And remember this too, y'all. And I don't take this lightly of voting Democrat just to vote Democrat. When we have more numbers of Democrat in office, what that means is we can actually put Democrats in leadership positions. We put Democrats in leadership positions means that the Democratic platform can actually get passed. Like we can actually introduce and pass legislation. When we don't have Democrats in office, what it means is the Republican agenda gets prioritized. The Republicans get to decide the agenda. They get to decide, what we're voting for and what we're not voting for. And the Democratic agenda never sees the light of day. So voting for Democrats is not just about that one individual candidate. It's about the overall infrastructure of leadership and how, whether it's the state house or Congress is composed.
100%. I agree with everything you just said. And so I had a thought, but I lost it.
You'll think of it. You'll think of it. But yeah, y'all, we have to support Crystal. We have to support the party. I also hear people say, well, the Democratic Party needs to do X, Y, Z. Well, y'all, guess who the party is? The party is you, the voters. I mean, that is literally who the party is. Crystal is not the party. Crystal is leading the party. But the party is me. The party is my neighbor. The party is my auntie who votes Democrat. Like, we are the party. And so if we want to see the party succeed here in South Carolina, we have got to do the work to see the party succeed. And that means either putting your name on a ballot or working hard to get someone's name on a ballot and to get that person elected to office. Like that is all of our responsibility. And I'm not saying you have to carry the weight of the party on your shoulders. Crystal's doing that. Fortunately, we have her as leader, but unfortunately, she has to carry the weight of the party. You don't have to do that. You can find your little niche of what works well for you. Is that candidate recruitment? Is that candidate training? Is that canvassing? Is that phone banking? What is it that you enjoy? Find that niche and lean in there and support the party and support candidates.
100%. And I'll tell people the party is only as strong as you make it. Even during the candidate recruitment, I'm all across the state and people are saying, well, our party here isn't, they're talking about the county party. It isn't good. And I'm like, well, what have you done for the party? Have you shown up to a meeting? Have you shown up to phone bank? Have you shown up? It's only as strong as you make it on a county level and on the state level. And it's, as Melissa already outlined, it's a lot of work that goes into it. But we can win here, but it's going to take effort. It's going to take a collective effort in order to do so.
It will. And y'all remember, we don't register my party. So the only way that we have data in some of these races is by putting Democrats on the ballot, win or lose. That's the only way we actually know who the Democrats in a district are, is by having a Democrat on that ballot. And so we need Democrats on the ballot, y'all. Like, we've got to put Democrats on the ballot to run, to gather this data, to put it back in Van. Look, I'll give a shout out. I don't get paid by NGP, but I will give a shout out that the data in Van is only good. The data in Van is only as good as the data that goes in there. So if you are a candidate, put your data back in Van, because that data helps us figure out who Democrats are. We won't have that data if we don't have Democrats on the ballot. And there shouldn't be a situation where a Republican incumbent has been in office for 20 years without an opponent. And Crystal can't manufacture an opponent. Like, she can't, wave her magic wand and just create one. That's going to take you, as our listeners, putting your name on the ballot.
Yeah, I think so. It's I don't know if it's a quote, but a friend of mine said all the time, we say, oh Lord, it's me standing in need of prayer. So you're
Mhm.
thinking that you're just like, oh, there are no Democrats on the ballot. Maybe you should be the Democrat on the ballot.
Mhm.
You should be the person to give the people in your community something to vote for, because I do believe that it creates voter apathy when you always go to the polls, or when you never have a primary. And there are places in the upstate, in that northwest corner, in Oconee and Pickens, where they don't ever really have Democratic primaries. So as Melissa already laid out, we don't know who the Democrats are up there. We can't really, we don't have a great model of who they are, because they don't get to vote in Democratic primaries in the way that Democrats in places like Richland County or Charleston get to do. So if you're in one of these places, just consider it. Consider running for office. Consider just saying, hey, if y'all help me, I will, I don't want to say sacrifice myself, but I will make myself available for service, make myself available for the people. And you never know what that will turn into. There's so
I
much
love
benefit
that.
in running a strong campaign. You don't have to, I've seen people lose and also benefit from their loss because they ran a strong campaign. They ran a
Mhm.
serious campaign and made it about the community, and they benefited from it in the long term.
Mhm. I love that. I will present myself for service. So, y'all,
Yeah.
this isn't us lecturing you. This is us actually us asking you to run. Because if we're going to get more women on the ballot in 2026 and beyond, it's going to be you. So, and my guess is that you're listening to this podcast because you are somewhat in tune to politics in South Carolina. And so, really look in yourself and ask yourself, who better to lead my community than myself? And so, ask yourself that, and really figure out, how you're going to show up in the political space. And is it, behind the scenes, or is it that we need you and your voice in Columbia, or in your own, city hall, or county hall, county council, because the voices there are not reflective of the community that they're supposed to be serving. So, but we've got to focus on 2024, but we also got to focus on 26 and beyond. Like, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think we can focus on getting the women that are on the ballot elected this year, and then also focus on recruiting strong candidates for 26 and beyond.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's a study that came out. I don't know if it came out, but I saw it on Instagram, where the doctor was saying, well, the man in the lab coat was saying that it's beneficial for you to walk and talk. Like, it helps with cognitive decline.
Mm-hmm.
So you say walk and chew gum. It is also beneficial to your mental health if you're walking and talking. Like, if you're multitasking,
Mm-hmm.
like, that is good for your long term cognitive
Mm-hmm.
development.
Mm-hmm. And it's good for the state too if y'all can multitask.
It's
So,
good for the state. Exactly.
yeah.
We can multitask.
Yeah. So, Chris, I got some lighter questions for you. So who are some women who inspire you and have inspired you to do this work?
Oh, wow. To do this work.
Or just inspire
Um,
you in life?
Women that inspire outside of my mom, and the women that in that, I grew up in my life. Of course, my mom, my coaches, I played basketball, like, they really uh encouraged me and made me, kind of prepared me for this work, actually, by being hard and, letting me know, like, if it's hard, you just do it hard, because
Mm-hmm.
this isn't easy. And every morning you just got to tell yourself it's hard, and I'm gonna have to do it hard.
Mm-hmm.
As Joyce Meyer says in her book, "Do It Afraid." You just got to do it. But as far as, like, in this political space, there are women like Bernice Scott, who I know probably
Mm-hmm.
had a harder time than I could ever imagine. Leslie Price down in Aiken, Senator Maggie Glover, like, they paved the way. And so I know that I stand on the shoulders of so many women, and I'm sure I'm not calling some names that I should be calling, but lots of women locally who have kept me encouraged over the years and kept me on this trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back and I realize, like, just them whispering in my ear and telling me this and telling me that has kept me in this political space. And now I'm the chair, but as you kind of look globally or nationally, like Stacey Abrams, I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely inspired by her, and on a very deep level. And I don't get inspired by easily, from just people who I don't know, right? But her run, just her presence in the race, her showing up as herself, full figured black woman. I think her hair was like sister locks, her natural hair. It meant something to me as a 40-some-year-old woman. like to see her there and to show up as herself, and then her, just being, brilliant, being smart, well thought out. I've definitely been inspired by her. Of course, Kamala, Vice President Harris. But yeah, on the national stage, those are probably some of the people. Secretary Fudge, Marsha Fudge.
Love her.
He's been great. Just watching them navigate has definitely been inspiring.
What I can appreciate about Stacey Abrams, who should be governor, is the fact that she showed up as her authentic self and did not try to pretend to be this cookie cutter politician. And I think that is what makes women candidates so, especially women candidates of today. I think there was a time 30 years ago where we expected them to all like be this cookie cutter image of what a perfect candidate is. And she showed up as her authentic self. And so I think we need more of that in politics, is people being vulnerable, because she was vulnerable. She talked about stuff on the campaign trail, and she wrote articles that I think showed her vulnerability, particularly when it came to the debt that she was in, that as a woman, I can relate to that.
Yes.
Right. I mean, student loan debt, y'all, is, oh my gosh. That's a whole another podcast. But that vulnerability and that this being authentic just resonates with people. And so yeah, I think, if y'all are considering running for office, do it and be your authentic self. Don't think that you have to be a cookie cutter image of another politician. We want you to come and be your authentic self.
Exactly. You don't have to go get your campaign wig, your
Nope.
I'm telling you, like, when I won my election, I was so emotional that day. Like, there was so many things that were happening that just sent me into this emotional tailspin, if you will. But also me just being able to stand up as myself. Because I used to wear a lot of wigs and all that stuff. But aside from nails and lashes, which I don't normally wear lashes, but I just want to be extra cute, I was standing up as myself, and it felt amazing to be accepted by that body of voters to say that, you know what, we're going with her.
Yeah.
Just like this. And the amount of women throughout this whole time that have come up to me that look like me are just like, oh my God, you just don't know what you did. It just made me remember Stacey Abrams, like what she was pouring into me just being in that race. So yeah, it matters. When they say representation matters, 100%, no truer words have been said.
Yeah.
To be able to look at something and see yourself matters.
And Crystal, you said it also, I can do hard things. I think, that is something that I have to remind myself of sometimes daily. And I have to remind myself of past success, that if I was able to accomplish this, I can accomplish that. And so, running for office is a hard thing, but many of y'all come to us having already accomplished amazing things. So if you were able to accomplish that, you can do this.
Exactly. You've accomplished things that you forgot that it was hard when you started. But you conquered it and you did it successfully. And so you look back and you don't remember how hard it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to do it hard. And you have to do it hard every day for 365 days. Do it hard and get it done.
Yeah.
And what I've also come to realize in just, in my adult life is that you cannot grow or attain, who you're supposed to be in a comfort zone. If you're always in a comfort zone, you're not growing. So you got to push yourself out further and be uncomfortable and be afraid and have it be hard in order for you to grow, in order for you to reach your full potential as a woman, as a person, period. God, I tell myself that all the time. If you're always comfortable, you are not growing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of days where you're going to be uncomfortable. And you probably be in tears,
but that means growth. That means growth. When you're uncomfortable, that's growth.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, as we wrap up, what is one piece of advice you would give our women listeners?
One piece of advice. I think I gave it. I'm trying to think of my favorite quote. I got a couple of favorite quotes, but it's by Elaine, whatever her name, Welterworth. And I think it said something about sometimes just showing up as yourself is like being a revolution. And I think that's like just figuring out how to be comfortable in your own skin, and just as Melissa already said, show up as yourself. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go and lose 50 pounds before you can do it, or you don't have to wait for this money to come in so you can go get this expensive suit and have your outfit on, or wait till my new wig come in, then I'm gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Go do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Do it as your authentic self. Like right now, you're good enough right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I
show
love
up,
that.
but show up, put your best foot forward. But you're good enough right now. I've been losing
Yes.
pounds for the last 3 years. Probably didn't gain 40 pounds. So if I was waiting to lose the weight, I would have never done it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still, but don't just do it now and put your best foot forward. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Crystal. That was some words I needed to hear too, because I also was like, oh, I need to do this and that and
You
improve
know,
myself before I do X, Y, and Z. And the reality is, you'll be waiting forever trying
yep.
to for perfection. So I'm with Crystal. Do it now. Run for office now. Support the party now. Support a woman candidate now. So to recap, I'm gonna recap this to November probably. Donate, volunteer, vote for a woman, and y'all, let's show our support for Crystal. Become a yellow dog dim. You don't have to give much, but give something. Because this work, yeah, this work, unfortunately, the society we live in, a capitalist society, and mailers cost money. The internet costs money, phone banking costs money. And so the party needs your support, women need your support. And if you are not on the ballot, if you're on the ballot this year, thank y'all for making that sacrifice and putting your name on the ballot. I want to thank y'all for that. If you are not on the ballot this year yet, school board filing opens in August, so think about that. And start thinking about 26, and not even 26, 25 and beyond, because we have municipal races next year. So really look in yourself and figure out your capabilities of, what can you serve on? Do you have the time to serve on county council or city council or your school board? And seriously consider putting your name on a list. Come reach out to Crystal if you're thinking about running, so she can have a conversation with you. I think it's very helpful to keep the party in the know so that they can help guide you to resources or guide you to people who can talk to you about what it's like serving in that office. But we need y'all to put your names on ballots, because like I said, candidates aren't falling out the sky and no one's coming to save us but you.
Exactly. Well said.
Thank you, Crystal. So thank you for being here with us today and finding time in your busy schedule to chat with us today. Shattering Ceilings is, you can find us where you find your podcast. Also, go ahead and subscribe to the Arena SC. Again, we're the only progressive publication here or media outlet here in South Carolina, and we want to make sure you're hearing that we're hearing from our voices are being told, our stories are being told. So tune in next time, and we look forward to chatting with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.